real vibes, got the 1942 pouring in my cup. In the session real loud, good gas, yeah, you know we about to roll it up. Bring the bottles to the session, big tab, go ahead and just live it up. Get lit one night, after that, we can go ahead.
What's going on? What's going on? It's your boy Icon. We here on 95 South Podcast, episode 5. I'm here with my man Jacob, the great. Man, you know what I'm saying? Thank God for another opportunity to be on here. To be able to come with information that's needed, man, or whatever. What's going on, my brother?
Hey man, I'm here in the building, man. King Jacob, aka Jacob the Great, man, aka the man with the $1,000,000 voice, aka your baby mama's favorite radio host. We up in the building and we about to talk about this much needed talked about topic, man. The rebranding, the restructure of the black community. And we want to find out how do other communities rebrand and restructure their community. And so we just want to talk about the tragedies that's been happening not only to the black community, but communities all over the globe. And we just want to talk about how this gun violence has like really gone out of control and how the drug uses with the teenagers is going out of control. You know, the Percocets, Oxycontin, the Miley's, and all the prescription drugs that the teens use in the high school realm, as well as how teens are really hooked on meth and stuff these days, man. So we just want to really talk about destruction of the community and how do we build that back with organizational leadership as well as education to lay that foundation on so many levels. So we're going to tap in this morning, man, and we're going to really talk about a much needed conversation.
Okay. I mean, basically, I just think that one of the main things is that we have to in our communities we have to get more involved. We have to get more involved as far as like getting with our councilmen, get with our mayor, getting with city hall on different matters of whether it's the educational portion of it, whether it's the community. The YMCA's, the Boys and Girls Clubs, recreational departments. Back in my hometown, they don't really have that. They don't really have the recreational department like, with the sports leagues and all of that. It's not as organized as it was back when I grew up, or whatever. The local park where everybody would go play basketball, the kids would go swimming, have picnics and things of that nature. They kind of took over that and allowed, kind of took it away from that community. For the lack of better term, they just took they kind of we kind of got infiltrated like the Carter almost, like they just come in and kind of did what they wanted to with it and without a say so on what we do or whatever. There used to be a spot where on Sundays everybody would go out and hang out, have a good time, maybe cook out, grill out, play basketball, hang out. You talk to your little girls, you push up in your latest whip with your rides and all that kind of stuff, your motorcycles, and just have a good time. And most of the time on Sundays, man, we would do that with no incident and stuff like that. So we just got to get back to the community being a community again. I think that's one of the first things we have to do in a lot of these communities out here, because most of the communities, ghettos is having the same issue. You know what I mean? It's not like, one ghetto is not having the same issue as another ghetto. Like I tell everybody, all ghettos is the same. The only difference between one ghetto to another ghetto is more or less the violence may be more one place than the other. Like, Chicago violence may be more than what it is in Saluda or whatever. You know what I mean? So that's pretty much. But as far as like the poor, like as it's funny when I hear people try to compare poor, and I said poor is poor. You know what I'm saying? There's no comparison. You can't compare poor to poor. You know what I'm saying? It's either poor is poor. Like people say, oh well, people in other countries way poor. Poor is they don't know that. Other people in other countries don't know how poor you are. You know what I'm saying? That poor is poor. know what I'm saying? To them, if they can't eat, they don't know where their next meal coming from. If they can't get a job, if they can't take care of their family, their poor situation the same as your poor situation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
poverty is poverty, and poverty don't have no color, no creed, no face. Poverty don't discriminate. Uh, it just hits you in a way. But kids don't like. Listen, man. I can't tell you I grew up rich. I can't tell you that my parents didn't struggle for a little while there. But I can tell you I seen them hold their glue together until they didn't struggle. You know what I'm
mhm,
saying? And I can tell you that me and my brother next to me, we seen a lot of the struggle. But I can tell you that my baby brother, my baby sister, they didn't see that struggle. You know what I
mhm,
mean? Because then, by the time they came along, my parents was up. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And so, but I can tell you when we was kids, man, me and my friends, we grew up poor. I ain't gonna say we was rich, but I'm gonna say that some of my friends, man, they would just be like, man, when we talk about that stuff now, man, they be like, man, we were just kids, bro. We didn't care. Like
mhm,
it's like what kids don't do now that we did, man. We went outside. How the grown ups say the young adults say when they couldn't party during the pandemic, and when it kind of cleared up, they were like, "We outside, we back outside." No, man, listen, bro, we was always outside because back then you couldn't sit around grown folks when they was talking. You couldn't be in grown people's face. You know what I
mhm,
mean? They tell you go outside and play somewhere, and then the neighborhood, man, around about 11 a.m., 12 noon, man. Everybody, wherever them bicycles were, and wherever there's a basketball goal at, that's where all the kids were, bro. And we
mhm,
ain't just talking about just males. We talking about I got homegirls that came up hooping with us, bro. Like
yeah,
so by the time they got to high school, man, and they was hooping, man. Like these coaches was like, man, where these girls come from, man? Just like my cousin Kelly, man. She used to hoop with us, man. Like check this out, Icon. In her age group, she was probably the best baseball player.
mhm,
You know what I mean? Um, when she went to high school to play basketball, you had more dudes that was telling Coach Rose be like, "Hey man, get Kelly the ball now. She gonna shoot
yeah,
that." You know what I'm saying? So nowadays you don't see a lot of kids outside. You see kids playing, Grand Theft Auto 6-man controller, but they ain't getting no vitamin D. You know what I mean?
yeah,
They ain't
yeah,
sunlight. Um, they don't know how to run a chainsaw. They don't know how to the change a tire or they ain't outside with their grandpa or their dad painting the back of the deck and kids are so privileged and so baby now and like I just it's different. You know what I mean?
well, you gotta look at it too, though. You got a lot of single parent homes, so you got a lot of homes with just the mom there. And a lot of these moms is not in a position where they're out, necessarily in situations where they're out cutting wood and you know what I mean, and raking leaves and doing all
This is
that
true.
kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
if you don't have like my grandmother, she grew up. She was in the part of that generation where even though by that time my grandfather had passed, by the time we got a little older, because he passed when I was 5, 6 years old. She had somebody help her do the yard work, a guy in the backyard till I got older enough for her to kind of help me go. But me and my sister would be out there helping her rake the leaves. You know what I mean? Me and my sister would be out there. I think the only why she didn't have me cutting her grass on the regular because my grandma was a perfectionist when it came to her yard. So she wanted that professional look. So she had the guy, Mr. Vamper, his name, that stayed directly behind us doing most of the yard work when it was coming, like, cutting the bushes and all that. But she had us doing other stuff, you know what I mean? Or whatever, helping her out in the garden, and doing other things like that, whatever, keeping the house straight, or whatever the case may be. But and at the same time, I think she wanted to make sure he kept working. He kept, he had a job to feed his family. Because I know, and that was another thing too. I found out later on. I knew a little bit when he was alive, but I found out even more after when she passed that a lot of times she would have to go over there and give them money to pay a bill or two, or they had a son that kept getting in trouble, and she would have to bail them, give money for them to bail them out of jail and things of that nature or whatever, and I'm not saying nothing that the son didn't actually say at her funeral himself or whatever, but those are type of things that that people out in the community did for each other. You had people be in trouble, don't have nothing to eat, no food. Oh, take this food over to Miss Johnson. You know what I'm saying? Take this money over here to such and such or whatever. We had a lady across the street that was a real bad alcoholic. Every time we go over there to give her Miss B, every time we take her over there, we could take over there to get some sugar. And he should give me and my sister a couple of dollars, and my grandma would say, "Now she gonna offer you some money. Don't take it now." And y'all heard me. I'll be like, "Okay, grandma." And when she would say no for it, I'd be like, "Grandma, she wouldn't take no. She wouldn't take no for that." So she just shake her head. She's like, "All right, go ahead and go outside and play." But you know what I mean. And we had a lady next door to us. We'd take her something. Literally, we walk across the grass, had us something. She bring us back. She give us a box of donuts to take back to the house. You know what I'm saying? Y'all take these donuts or whatever, whatever. So it was just one of those things where even when drugs, when crack came along in the 80s, and we'll walk to the local store down the street, and we 7, 8, 9 years old, nobody bothered you because they, they did their thing or whatever, but you didn't have to worry about the violence wasn't there yet. It was just more so you could still walk down the street to the store, and they knew, okay, these Miss Jones kids or this such and such kids, let them through. You know what I'm saying? And then we go and get our little candy and our little soda pop, walk back to the house. So that we just gotta get back to the structure of the community or whatever, more so than anything, because like I said, the crack era destroyed most communities or whatever as a whole. And now with me and you talked about, there's no code. There's no code in the streets anymore. So even with the street side, when there's no code, that's a lot of things that really, really kind of made things really go left.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I can agree with when I grew up, you had OGs and you had pretty boys. The pretty boys was always dabbing there, always clean cut, never no dirt on them. They just live, for the ladies. You know what I mean? That's what that was their swag. That was their ordeal. You know what I mean? To have the bad chick on their arm. And the OGs. You had the OGs in the neighborhood that made sure the neighborhood was safe, made sure there was structure in the neighborhood, and if there were any young ones in the streets, by the time 9 o'clock come, if they know anything about your family background, grandparents, uncles, daddy, mother, aunties, you had to get off them streets and go home.
Mm-hmm.
I remember some of them would put you in the car and take you home.
Exactly.
That's just how much respect they had for your family bloodline. And so, like you said, there's no street code. So when we talking about street code, let's talk about Charleston White. I see these boys on TikTok raving about Charleston White, talking about Charleston White need to mind his business, and he this and he that, and he just antagonized, rappers just to try to get clout, and somebody gonna hurt him. So, what do you think about the infamous Charleston White?
Like I told you before, I said I think Charleston White. I think most of what Charleston White says is true. Sometimes the way his delivery is a little bit harsh or comes off a little bit disrespectful. But I think in this time and era, I think because of social media, he understands social media. He's like the journal. He's like the 50 Cent journalist, like the journalist 50 Cent, like whatever you want to call him, blogger. He's like the 50 Cent version of that. You know what I'm saying? Like he knows he's the shock value that makes you pay attention to him. Whether you like him, hate him, you know what I'm saying, want to kill him, want to whatever, he's that. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Because what he understands that the more controversial I am, the more you're going to listen. And that way I can get my message across, because people don't
Mhm.
understand. He does a lot in community. He's a very big community activist in Dallas, Texas. And he's even taken some of what he's learned, he's done in helping change laws in Dallas. He's trying to take those to other places like California and Chicago. He's trying to work in other parts of the country, trying to help other communities, trying to kind of turn things around and put in laws in place. And I'm not one to want to send everybody to jail, or saying, oh man, I don't feel bad because somebody dead. I would never feel good about somebody being dead because that's somebody's child lost. That's one of us gone or whatever. You never know, somebody could turn their life around. But I
Right.
understand what he's saying is that we always cry for the person like that, but we never cry for the victim. We quick to want to cry for Pookie and them when they get locked up or when they get killed. But then when the person who dies, that's actually trying to do something good with their life or whatever, we don't want to necessarily, we don't celebrate them the same, or we don't talk about them the same. You know what I'm saying? And that's what he's trying to get to is like, he said, I'm always going to be for the victim every time, because at the end of the day, that person who chose to do what they did, kill that person, you know what I mean, or whatever, then that's on them. So I get a lot of stuff what he's saying. Like I said, a lot of it I agree with. Some of it I'm like, ooh, it even kind of make me cringe a little bit sometimes. This latest situation where the guys in Atlanta say he couldn't come to Atlanta, and then but that was them being stupid. They was all online saying that you can't come here and we're gonna do something to you, and they already had warrants on for their arrest. So basically, it was one of those things where they FBI they did that job for the FBI they did the FBI's job for them by basically getting caught on camera threatening this man, you know what I'm saying, or whatever, and then they end up getting locked up behind it. And so they fed right into it. It's what I mean. It's like one of those things where if you know somebody is, it'd be like if you know somebody's an informant and you still on the block letting them know that you sell crack, and they're informant. You know what I'm saying? So you kind of put your own self in that situation, and that's what them guys did in that situation. Just like Soldier Boy, but everybody knows Soldier Boy's stupid. So you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. Clown.com. That's who he is. So,
Yeah.
everybody know that. But so we've been watching the news media for some years now, and we've experienced, from Trayvon Martin to Breonna Taylor to my girl Sandra Bland to Freddie Gray to Walter Scott. Uh, like then the list goes on. So we say we want to restructure and rebrand the community. Restructure and rebrand the community. I'm gonna say it again. Restructure and rebrand the community. How do you do that if we don't trust the people that's wearing the badge that's policing our neighborhoods?
Well, I mean, that's really on them to get the training, because back in the day, most communities, a lot of communities, I can say most, but I say a lot of the communities, especially in smaller communities, smaller towns, the police officers would go around and they would know their beat. They'll walk around, they'll know the elder people, they'll know the people in the neighborhood, they know who the knuckleheads were, they knew the people that was really deep into the game. So they knew all of that. You know what I mean? And they kind of had an understanding of how to approach people in different situations where, some people you just lock them up. Some people you may grab them up by the collar and say, come here, boy, let me talk to you. What you out here doing? Your mom and dad wouldn't be too fond of this. So they knew who the local pastors was. They knew who the people who would work, everyday workers that work hard. And if they
Mm,
see their child acting out, they knew that's the one they may just throw them in the car, take them to the house, and say, I ain't want to lock them up, but I want to let you know that your son out here getting into stuff or whatever. And then of course, you got to deal with that when you got home. So I think that in this day and time, in this era, the police officers don't have any connection with the community that they're in as far as having relationships with the people that's around. So, and with all the police brutality, there's that lack of trust has ingrained itself deep into our communities where I don't care who you are, you don't trust them. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to have no dealings with them at all. You don't want to call on to them to help you, or whatever. Even like, let's just say for argument's sake, we talked about this too. We talked about the snitching culture. Let's just say for argument's sake, which I think the snitching culture has gotten so ridiculously stupid that we don't even know what it is anymore. So let's just say somebody like me and you who are not into crime, we see a crime and we report it. We'll still be called a snitch in our own neighborhood when we got nothing to do with the streets. The snitching culture was even a gangster tell you the snitching is for people that's in the streets. It's not for your everyday citizen. So if the citizen tells on somebody, then so be it. We have to live with that. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, what happened especially in the 80s and the 90s, the citizen was getting killed by the drug dealer and the gangsters for telling on them or whatever to protect them from going to prison. And because the police was supposed to protect that citizen, put them in protective custody until the case was over with, or protect them enough, where they put police around their house 24 hours a day, or whatever it was, until that court date to make sure that person was good. So that's another thing that come into play, where even if I do help you try to solve this crime, what kind of protections do I have from the biggest gangster in the city that we know, that everybody knows that can kill you on a drop of a dime? So it's just a lot of just lack of trust, lack of communication, lack of understanding. They put police officers that come from, they might come from an all-white neighborhood, put them in a black neighborhood. They don't understand the culture. They don't understand how people move, and they just want to bang on people's heads. You know what I'm saying? That's not how you police. That's not how you police these streets. You put people that come from those streets, who come from those areas. They don't necessarily got to come from that particular neighborhood, but they got to at least come from, you do your background, your police officers. Okay, I understand you grew up in the ghetto, so you understand how the ghetto works. So you gonna understand how to deal with these people when you talk to them. Versus you take somebody from the suburbs that became a police officer, you put him in the hood, he gonna be scared to death. So every time he see you coming across the street or in a car, he gonna be trigger happy every single time. You know what I'm saying? So I think those type of things need to be rebranded and restructured where they put the right people in the right neighborhoods too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then another thing about police officers, a lot of police officers that become police officers got picked on in school.
Mm-hmm.
So they become police officers, though, and some of those dudes that picked on him are your local neighborhood drug dealers.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the opportunity to get some get back in their eyes. Mm-hmm. Be like, oh, to pick on me, you want to do something illegal too? Oh yeah. So and so I tell people all the time, be careful what you do to people any time in your life, because you never know who them people may become, or you never know what situation you might be in, and if those people can help you or not. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. And so just be careful. So back on to the unity in the community, the restructuring and the rebranding. You can catch this live on She Real Radio, Independent Chicks Radio, She Real Radio, Atlanta, Georgia, Independent Chicks Radio, Hattiesburg, Mississippi. So you can catch 95 South Podcast live on both of those stations. And we working. So back to the restructuring, rebranding of the community. I like to tell people all the time, man. They're like, man, why you so big on connecting with the local city councilman, the local county councilman, connecting with the mayor, the governor, um, always knowing what's going on with the House of Legislation, the House of Delegates. Um, you always say you need to know what's going on with your congressmen, your senators, and you hold people accountable that's in Congress and in Senate that's been there for 25, 30 years and ain't did nothing. I do, because nobody talks about them.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody talks about the congressmen and the senators that's been in that office for 30 years and ain't did nothing but go to luncheons and brunches and just, get sponsorships and endorsements for something that they had nothing to do with. Nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it gets on my nerves. But your local government, to my black people, to other citizens all around the community, to the black communities, the white communities, whatever community you're in, Jewish community, Asian community, Mexican community, whatever community you're in, because we all one conglomerate anyway, one big humanitarian community anyway. So with that being said, get to know your local government, man.
Mm-hmm.
Get to know your local government. Get from your city councilman to your county councilman to your mayor, to your clerk of courts. Get to know who's the superintendent of education in your school district. Get to know the hiring process of a principal, how these principals and these teachers hire. You need to know because they're the one who's going to be with your kids more than you are.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know how they're hired and you don't know why they was hired, so what credentials did they have to woo the school district to give them a chance?
Mm-hmm.
Or what connections did they already have? Did they play football there? Did they play basketball there? Was they still cool with athletic director? That's why they got in, or was they just referencing from another school they came from and the references checked out?
Mm-hmm.
And they've been known to be good with children all over. So know who's doing everything in your community, man. Get to know the director of waste management. Get to know the director of the waterworks. Because this is all included on a healthy lifestyle for your children as well. You know what I mean? And kids need to sit down and know about the political conversations that they see on the news. You need to break this down to your children. You need to teach them about financial literacy. Get to know a banker personally. So when you don't understand something, they can really talk to you and your children and understand how credit works, how business credit works. Understand how banks. You can get insurance policy through a bank as well. It's a lot of perks. First time mortgages and get to know you a mortgage loan officer in depth. So it's a lot of things that I feel like that should be taught in our communities that's not taught, and we definitely got to get away from that. We definitely got to get away from being the average thinker. You know what I'm saying? We got to think outside the box. We got to be an intellectual thinker, and we got to be a thinker that understands. How can I navigate when the economy changes? Can I not be a complainer or can I capitalize? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's what I think. That's my spiel on it, my brother.
That's the thing, because one thing that COVID should have taught everybody was that you're gonna have to know how to switch lanes. You're gonna know how to be creative enough and to be able to do something different or whatever. It's funny because I was riding through this small town in North Carolina a couple of days ago, Actually, I was like, I was in North Carolina. I forgot. It was a real small town. I forgot the name of it. But it was right outside of, not too far from like Clayton, Georgia area. So it was up in that north part of North Carolina, or the south part of North Carolina, whatever. But I just remember everything shut down like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. Like restaurants, grocery stores, everything. And so I remember going on TikTok and saying, dang, I was like, this is the effect of COVID, because when mom and pop businesses, because most of them was mom and pop businesses, like everything on that whole area was mom and pop. And when mom and pop businesses got shut down, when they opened back up, they didn't fully recover, because they can't even have their normal business hours anymore. You never known a steakhouse to close at 7 o'clock. You know what I'm saying? Steakhouse is just getting jumping, and really getting their business around 7 o'clock. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So these businesses shut down at 7 o'clock for lack of people working. For whatever reason, people decided not to go back to these jobs for, I guess they not paying what they want, or whatever the case may be. Because I don't think the government's really giving out money as much, but people chose to do something else. But I said, yeah, Walmart, McDonald's, all these major corporations recovered for the most part. But what about the little man? You know what I'm saying, that basically didn't get that same relief as everybody else when it came to money provided for them to get back on track so they could keep moving. Because what people don't realize about a mom and pop business, in most cases, they're not really getting rich. They're still making probably the same amount of money that if they would work on a regular job. It's just more of the case of it's their business. But they're not making millions of dollars. Some of them may make be lucky if they clear 30, that they make $30,000-$40,000 that year. You know what I'm saying? After they pay out everybody and do whatever they gotta do and pay the bills. They lucky if they average 30,000-40,000 a year. So you know what I mean? So so you can't just assume just because somebody owns something that they're getting rich off of it. And
Right.
most of these mom and pop businesses, they're not getting rich. You had that lady in your neighborhood and older been for 40 years. And you see her house, you see her car, you see what she going through, she wasn't rich. You know what I'm saying? She's just standing right beside you in the same neighborhood you in. So she ain't rich because she's standing around the corner from you. So you know what
Oh,
I mean?
oh, you got that same lady that had that restaurant for 30 years, and you hear she don't appear to be rich, but you hear older people to whisper and be like, "Oh, she got it," but she just ain't gonna go flounder it or spend it. She may had the same car for 20 years. She live in that house for 20 years. The house is paid for, and everything. Now she profits, so she got it, but she's not gonna appear to have it because she want to keep it. So you
Mhm.
got older people like that too.
Yeah, I get it. But my thing was just understanding, like you were saying, is that we have to understand our situation, our environment. We gotta stay connected to the local congressman. Because one thing I know is our local uh undertaker in our city, I know he was very connected to the mayor's office and all that. So that's why was able to have several businesses when he was around. Because he was connected to the local councilman and the mayor. So he had the juke joint clubs, and he had the funeral homes and other businesses and all that. He even had those old school gangster cars that you seen in Harlem Nights. He owned about 6 or 7 of those cars, where he would pull them out, Christmas time, and throw out candy to the kids in a local parade. So you know what I mean. So people like that, the people like that, even as a young kid, I knew, when my grandma talking and whatever, I knew he was connected, with the right people, and that's another reason too. That's another way to get something done. If you want to start a business, if you want to, get into real estate, buy multiple houses in an area, get connected with the people that's run that city. That way, if you get a relationship with them, when it's time to put your bid in for certain things, they already know who you are. Okay, yeah, this is Mr. Jones. This is Mr. Kincaid, Mr. Jacob. You know what I'm saying? So we know this is Mr. Anderson. So we know, what kind of person he is and what value he gonna bring to the area. You know, like my sister now, she's trying to buy certain property back home. You know what I'm saying? And I think that the trouble she's coming against is that the people she's trying to deal with is newer people in the city who don't know her, that she came from that area, and they trying to make it harder for her to be able to, to come in. And then of course you got the local people who basically just gonna fight against you just because they feel like, oh, you think you better than everybody else. So you got those type of people too sometimes. So it's just one of those things
Well,
where
let me ask you a question. Does it have to be back home where y'all from, or is she just looking for some country land?
well, basically I think she's doing this now because she's trying to uh trying to take control, or maybe don't, because in our area back, we from, folk, them real estate people that came in and they trying to take control of our block. So it's almost like she's trying to buy the block, but you know that saying, buy the block one,
Oh, okay.
so
I
she's
see what
trying
you're
to,
doing.
you feel what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
she's
she
trying to
trying
keep
to.
control of where we grew up, in the area we grew up in. So she's trying to make sure that we don't get completely moved out the way. Somebody got
So
to come in and buy that property up so we
uh
could keep control, because we got some of the locals who brought the old elementary school, and they're gonna turn that into businesses for people to come in, so we won't completely be wiped out our own neighborhoods. So that's what it's
Okay.
about right now.
Okay. So she's trying to do what I think a lot of black people who have access to money should do.
Mm-hmm.
She's trying to
Nipsey Hussle.
keep the neighborhood from going through that gentrification. She's trying to keep the neighborhood from getting gentrified. So I used to live in Chocolate City in DC. It's no longer Chocolate City anymore. When I lived in DC, it was 87% black, and
Mm-hmm.
they call it Chocolate City. So what they have done is they have took a lot of the high-rise community buildings out, which we lived in, black people, and they have tore them down, and they have gentrified the neighborhoods, a part of what we call the U.S. gentrification, and they have put a lot of condos and high-rise condos in there, and so it don't make them affordable to black communities anymore. It
Mm-hmm.
make them affordable to the white collared wealthy
Mm-hmm.
worker, not the
Yeah.
blue collared middle class worker. And so
Mm-hmm.
when I lived in DC, and this was probably in from 99 to about 2010. My very first apartment was $850, one bedroom
Mm-hmm.
in 98. You know what I mean? So um, now, from what I understand from my family members, they was like, listen, for you to even consider moving back up here, um, I'm going to ask you, are you sick? Do you really need a doctor? Because it's no way. It's no way.
Yeah.
There's like so many people move out of the DMV area every year because they can't afford it. Because if you think about the DMV, one of the richest counties in the world, in the US, is Montgomery County, which is in the
Mm-hmm.
DMV. You know what I'm saying? Where you have the Gaithersburg, Rockville, Germantown, you know, Bethesda, Maryland, all that. That's rich. You know, I used to
Mm-hmm.
work over there when I lived out in the DMV. So that's rich. Everybody that's in that county really make great money. A lot of them make great money. A lot of them just still there because their parents own the house there. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that gentrification is real.
Oh
It's
yeah.
even real. It's real in Atlanta. It's real in Charlotte,
Oh yeah.
North
Oh
Carolina,
yeah.
all through Alabama, Mississippi, all through certain parts of Georgia, like Savannah, Columbus, Augusta, Georgia.
Yeah.
It's all through
Because
Toledo, Columbus, Ohio, and it's heavy in Cleveland, Ohio.
everywhere. Because even like when I left Atlanta, The townhouse I stayed in when I left Atlanta was $1,200. Now that same townhouse is probably about 1,800. So when you could go back in the few years ago when I moved to Atlanta, you could get you a nice house, or you could get you a nice house for about 1,200 to 1,300 a month. Now them same houses probably run you probably about 2,500 a month. You know what I'm saying, or whatever, 2,000, 2,500 a month. So you know what I mean. So basically, like I said, everything done went up in price, and I think a lot of that what people don't talk about when they gave out all this free money. You know what I'm saying? Basically, they allow inflation to kick in to get some of this money back. You know what I'm saying? So they can tax it and get some of their money back off of the money they gave us. You know what I'm saying? That's why I told people, to be careful when you sit here and ask for all this free money, because it's a price we're gonna have to pay at the end of the day. We paying that price for getting that free money. So, but I know you got to go, brother. You know what I mean, Mr. I'm gonna start just calling you Mr. Podcast. You know what I'm saying? Because you got about 30 of them.
Why you say that, man?
What you mean? Why I say that? You know why I say that, bro. You got a podcast down every. You gonna control the whole market here in a minute. That's why I told my man about you. I said, bro, you need to get him a deal because this guy right here, he need a deal. Point blank period. You know what I'm saying? I
just it's just a lot of things, and I can tell you this right here. I only started out with two of my own, and I just tap in where I can either build a network at or help build a network at, and so it's about networking that turn into net worths, and a net worth that everybody want to be a part of, man. So I do different podcasts. I'm co-host on some, but I've been able to really be blessed to work with, to be hired by a PR company, and also to work with different PRs. I've been blessed to work with MJ from Hip Hop DX. That is LeBronx James and Thurston Howell's PR. I've been blessed to really build a good relationship with Desiree Benson, which is man. She did stuff for people like Uncle Charlie Wilson. She's did stuff for George Outbreak, one of the biggest jazz musicians / singers in the world. 13 times female boxing champion, Tori Nelson. So the list goes on. So been able to work with Tia Carver, who's worked with Tyler Perry Studios, Young Jock, Bad Boy South Tour, and the list goes on, and just been able to really connect with a lot of different people, man, and it's only because of my voice, nothing else. It ain't like I got a doctoring degree or nothing like that. I use that tool that God gave me, that voice. So I appreciate you, Icon, man. You always be like, man, boy, look at him, man. I was like, yo, man, we just got to keep at it, keep getting it, man. Like, so, and I appreciate the push and all the prayers and support, man.
Yeah, no, and I'm the same way, because sometimes you keep me motivated, because sometimes I wake up like, man, I mean, you know what I'm saying, be trying to do a podcast or do something, and I'll be like, bro, and you hit me with a meeting or something, whatever, and I try to be available as much as I can, and you be like, oh, we got a meeting in like 2 hours, 30 minutes with such and such. I'm like, what? You know what I'm saying? And so it just be like, you keep me on my toes and keep me kind of going, because it be time I'll be like, man, I ain't with it today, but yeah. So I think that we make a good team. Just how we move and or whatever. You know what I mean? And
right.
When people say, yeah, man, you got to be the hardest working person I ever seen, and I'm like, man, I just go. I don't really even think about it. You know what I mean? Right. I just go. You know what I mean, or whatever. I don't think. I don't try to. I try to think. That's one of my competitive things. I do try to outwork people, but not outwork people from the standpoint I'm competing. It's just I know I got to outwork somebody to get where I'm trying to go.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because you know why? it's like ET. Every time I say, because you owe you, nobody else. You owe you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, that consistency starts within, man. So, you know, and he said you got to put in your mind that you owe you.
Mm-hmm.
You owe it to yourself enough to be great. You owe it to yourself enough to understand that you can climb out any threshold that anybody try to put you in. And you owe it to yourself to know that what you do and what you say is going to inspire someone else so you can stay inspired. That's why you owe yourself. You know what I mean?
I try to tell the youth, like, don't nobody owe you nothing. You owe yourself to be great. Don't worry about what somebody else think. Don't try to impress nobody else. You know what I'm saying? You owe yourself to be who you gonna be. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever. At the end of the day, you got to be accountable for you. You know what I mean? Right. Or whatever. So, but anyway, man, we gonna get out of here. You know what I mean? I'll let you get on with your day. I know you got another podcast coming up. So, you know what I mean?
I actually don't, man. I actually just gotta be on the laptop researching a lot of things today and just trying to get some things underway, man. And there's some new laws that came out for the nonprofits, and there's a lot of local small grants in the city that anybody may be in that's nationwide. Like it's a lot of city grants that be for 5,000, 7,000, 10,000. You might find another one for 3,500, but that grant money add up. And so it's a lot of laws that come out recently about the new order of nonprofits. And just to let you guys know, man, it's about $595 million in the U.S. Treasury for nonprofits, and the U.S. only uses about $175 million. And so all the other money go to the Federal Reserve. So, but the nonprofit money is out there. The small business loan money is out there. The FFA is out there. Future Farmers of America is out there. The FHA money is out there. The Future Homeowners of America. And through the Future Homeowners of America, if you are a veteran, they work with you really, really closely. Despite getting your GI Bill, the Future Homeowners of America have different programs for veterans as well. So veterans, you have all type of perks when it comes to being a business owner, when it comes to being a nonprofit. When they know that you're a veteran, you get perks that the rest of us don't get. So I would tell veterans, take advantage of all the perks that you get. If you don't know what's going on and the type of discounts that veterans get, research it. Whether it comes to mortgages, whether it comes to nonprofit, whether it comes to Small Business Act, just research it, man. And veterans, man, like you can go to school for anything you want, anytime you want. So maybe you don't want to go back 4 years, but they have a lot of certifications that you guys can take advantage of us. Take advantage of because you're a veteran. So I said salute. Good to know. Yes, sir. I said salute to all the veterans, man. And until the next Saturday, we out of here, man. Bless, be blessed, be encouraged.
We got the good vibes, got the 1942 pouring in my cup.